Well, good afternoon. How's everybody? It's good to see everybody. So who are the stars this week? Beth's wearing out the evidence. She's about done. You're in task 5. You're writing your reflections of those different competencies in 5. I've enjoyed reading your work. It's very comprehensive. It's very good. I really like it. It's good stuff. That's why I said I love working with y'all, because I love the way you write. It's very, very good. So I'm very, very pleased with that. Heather, how are things with you? Heather's muted. Heather, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can now. Sorry.
Okay, everything good with you?
Yes.
So glad to hear that. Let's see, what else have we got? I've got to read my notes right quick before we get any further in. And so I was on Marquise and got behind here a minute. Okay. Prayers for our classmate Katie. She's having
her dad.
Her dad. Yep. You think you're adult. You have kids and do all kinds of things, but you have to start taking care of your parents. That's when that's when you're an adult. That's the hardest thing in the world. That's the hardest thing in the world is elder care, and we pray for her. Her dad's having health issues, and I tell you that's a tough gig. That's a tough gig. So let me share my screen, and Dr. Neal, I'll turn it over to you, and you tell me where you want me to drive to.
Number 20. We are working our way through all of these, and we are halfway through. So we'll start with group 1 tonight, and everybody's gonna go in order. We've got 20, 21, and 22. Which group is Katie in, 1 or 2? Are y'all short somebody, or y'all good? Hello?
Sorry, she's group 1.
She's group 1, okay. All right. All right, who in group 1 would like to start giving us a summary of number 20? Don't everybody jump up at one time?
I mean, we got some good ones in our group this week.
Yes.
Guns and pedophiles. So let's start with this one that's neither of those two things. So case 20 is about a middle school, grades 5 through 8, 86% Anglo. So a growing minority population, but still definitely in the minority. There's a budget proposal that's due in 2 weeks. Departmental requests, of course, are exceeding the available funds. And so it's dealing with and prioritizing the departmental requests. So English and science are wanting new computer programs. The athletic department wants funding for lacrosse and football. Library has requested personnel, 2 paraprofessionals. They want twice the budget for their books, and they've emphasized the need for multicultural. So the problem is you've got limited resources, and you've got competing departments and competing needs. So you've got to balance the athletic, the academic, and the library resource requests. At the same time, diversity and inclusion is a growing issue, and it is important to make sure you're doing those things. But I think the primary problem here is that you've got to make sure that your budget aligns with your school improvement plan, and that you're following the streams and making sure that the right money goes to the right sources. So
right. I'm going to support you here, Anne Marie. Let's see. Yeah. Now, what Anne Marie's talking about, I know y'all know this.
Dale loves to be able to pull up those law numbers. I don't know how he remembers them all.
Right here. This is the law that she's just referring to right here. This is 115C 288H. Principal's responsibility is to develop a school budget and improvement plan every year, and they have to support one another. That's what she's talking about. You have to be able to show that your local budget, you do your own local budget, that it supports the efforts of your school improvement plan, which has an academic piece. You have to do the data dive. The APSEL is the data dive. The reason why we have you do that one, we know that y'all are instructional geniuses already, but you have to do that every year to set your priorities in your, that's the number one part of your school improvement plan, is diving in your data and setting your budget to match that data. And that school improvement plan initiatives. That's law. That's not Dale's opinion. So that's why I wanted to pull that. So that's what Anne Marie is making reference to. That's not a choice kind of thing. You got to do that one. So in the context of knowing what the law is, now go.
So my recommendation or my best solution is that we need to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment that's aligned with the SIP goals, and prioritize funding based on the goals and the identified needs. So that just makes sure that we're following and complying with what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get folks on board when you are following your plan, the plan that you've set, where you have created those priorities. It's not just, oh, today I think my friend over here should get this, and this group over here is not so difficult, so I'm going to give them more money. Because those things happen every day, and it's very easy. And when you have a good, solid school improvement plan, how many of you guys use, in North Carolina, use NC STAR? Yeah, which really, it's cumbersome, but it does ensure that you address a lot of the necessary goals to meet improvement within a district, and it outlines it for you. And if you meet and pull it up on a regular basis and address all the things that you have set, then there's no wiggle room and there's nobody wondering what you're doing. So, and it's transparent. You're supposed to make it available online to anybody in the public to see the public view of it. You're supposed to keep minutes for every meeting. So that's what the law says, and that's what you should do, but I promise you not everybody does do it. Some districts are not good at it at all. A low performing school or district, they are required by law to have theirs reviewed by the state and to give feedback. But it doesn't,
your
but it
last
doesn't mean
job.
they have to do, yes, but it doesn't mean they have to do what we suggest they do. We just give the suggestions. So,
But what you will find is generally there's a reason why folks are low performing. In a scenario like this, they'd buy new uniforms for the ball team.
right, exactly.
You know, you are who you are. You are what your actions are.
Yes.
There's a reason why. Now, I told you I work with Renita Griffin Jordan. Renita is principal at City of Medicine Magnet School in Durham. And I just love her dearly. And one of the things that she talks about, she was my doctoral student, and she was AP when she was my doctoral student. And when Jackie moved to a bigger high school, Renita was her AP, and she became principal there. And one of the things that she'll tell you, I love Renita. I mean, she's just the classiest person ever, but she'll just tell you, when you're a new principal, everybody questions everything that you do. You need the power of the group in your decision making, your school improvement team. You have to be able to lean on them and the decisions that they made. Because like she said, Jackie ran the place, you know, all those years, and everybody was right in line. But just as soon as Jackie left, it's like they all fell and hit their head. why we have to do this and we want that. Well, you know the drill. You know how it's supposed to work, but you're new. And if they think they can twist your arm, they will. So
But you can always go back to that school improvement plan
yes,
as your backup.
yes. But again, there's a reason why low performing schools are low performing.
Oh, yeah,
They make bad decisions.
a lot.
You know, with their money, they don't understand, and they let the teachers do their master schedule where the right teachers aren't teaching the right things. And you know, they make the schedule for the convenience of the faculty rather than what's best for kids. There's a reason why these places are like they are. And you're sitting here thinking, Dale, y'all beat the same drum every week, but I'm telling you, it's amazing. These things are easy to know, but you go out and you're just amazed when you go out to schools how little this stuff people are actually doing. And then they wonder why they're not doing any better than they are.
Yeah.
And so this is a simple case. Whatever the initiatives are from our data dive, just like y'all are doing right now in the app cell, it's the reason why we have you do this one is you'll do that every year. And it's the most important section in your school improvement plan is that academic piece to know your numbers. You got to know your numbers in this business. Your job is to make a good number go up or a bad number go down, period. That's your job as a school administrator. And the only way you can do that is if you know your numbers and you get your help and your support, both your money and your master schedule behind those initiatives. And you know, hopefully you get to the point where people won't come to you wanting to buy, you know, band uniforms or that kind of stuff. That's not your deal. That ought to be parent group deal. All right. Excellent. Excellent.
All right,
excellent.
the next one, gun in the school, heavy duty.
Sorry, I can do that one.
Go ahead, Mindy. You might have to speak up a little loud because you're not.
Oh, can't hear you.
We could hear you for a second and then it fizzled out.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yay.
Good. I don't know what happened. So there are 1,500 students in this high school, and 2 students come up to you as the assistant principal and tell you that there is a girl at school with a gun, and she has brought it to scare a boy who continues to sexually harass her. And then it tells you, you know, what class period the girls are in. But what I put was the number one thing is that no matter what the issue is, students are not allowed to have any sort of weapon on campus. And I wrote that the assistant principal needs to take the situation over immediately because they are the responsible person, and minutes can matter in this situation. I put to follow the school safety procedures, put school in lockdown right away, contact local law enforcement, SROs, and inform your principal. Find the student, try to figure out what classroom the student is in. And I also put that you do need to, you know, the weapon needs to be your first priority, of course, you know, the student with the weapon, but I did put that I feel it's also important after that has settled down to investigate the sexual claims harassments that she's made against the boy, to possibly offer counseling and address behavior and consequences for all parties. And I think that's what I put. But the first thing that I put was, regardless of what the reasoning is, she should not have a weapon on campus. And that needs to be first priority, and the school needs to go into immediate lockdown following the procedures of the school district.
Yes, you can't put it off. And when time is ticking, you have to address that immediately and call for help and for backup. Are you going to highlight the reportable offenses? There he goes.
Right there. And, you know, weapons are one of those things. I won't. We'll cover this more in depth in the other half of the course. But in a case like this, the issue here is do you go public with this and do go over the loudspeaker, do a lockdown or that, or do you try to get to the room and recover the weapon before the kid knows what's happening so they can run out and hide the gun? I've done it both ways, unfortunately. I've dealt with more weapons than I would like to admit. It's according to how brave you are. Now, you know that you're facing down somebody that potentially has a gun. Do you want to go run up on them or not? Now, I'm dumb enough to do that. I'm a lot older now, not any smarter, but I'm a lot older. I don't know if I'd go running up on them now, but I have. But you need to be calling 911 or your resource officer while you're moving toward that room. That would be the thing is we're going now. And we're heading toward that room. Now, you might be the person that says, no, I'm going to let law enforcement do that. If you know the student, again, it's about the student. If you know the student and you're willing to take the risk that you can get there and get that kid disarmed quickly, you got 15 minutes. You got to make an adjudication. I was always dumb enough that I'd go running.
Yeah, I would too.
But
I'm not sure that's the smart thing.
I'm not sure it's a smart play. I'm not sure it's a smart play though.
No.
I used to think I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I know that. I know different than that now. I have been shot at in school, in context of school. I absolutely have been. And so I've been cut. I've been bruised. I've been hit. I've been a lot of things. I don't advocate that as a practice or as a profession. You don't heal up nearly as fast as you do on TV. That's just like, you don't understand, you see these kids playing college football and you think, well, the game's over. They're going out. No, I'm telling you what, the next day you feel like you've been thrown out of a truck going about 35 miles an hour on a gravel road. It's not, you don't see that part on TV. You don't see that part. You don't see when you get, all the other stuff. And so this is one of those things. I like this case study. And we know that we're supposed to get in touch with the SRO and call, do all that stuff. But the question is, do you go to that room? Do you take it upon yourself to go face down a gun?
Or you get somebody to head to that room quickly.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was just going to ask or add one part of it. So I was actually at a school where there was a dad killed his mom or a dad killed his wife and was coming to the school to get the kid to kill the kid. And so like we grabbed that kid. The whole school went into lockdown, but the kid was taken. So also adding to, yes, contacting the SRO and yes, getting the student with a gun, but also the student who is the alleged target, having that student grabbed by somebody else and then taken to a secure location so that he is removed from the situation.
Absolutely. So I said, you enact all the safety procedures, you go get that kid, get them out of harm's way. You got the SRO with you or on the way, but if the SRO is not in front of you, are you the first one through the door is the question. See, the problem that we get into is a lot of times, and I don't like this, some elementary schools don't have a full-time SRO on campus with them.
Most of them do not.
And this is not a secondary problem only. I can tell you from the numbers and in a large district, you'll have more guns in an elementary than you will anywhere else. We had an outbreak of knives one time at an elementary school. Let's see, it was at Paul Creek. Mary Jo was principal over there, and they had an outbreak of knives. And I don't mean just, I mean, kids were stabbing one another with them, and we was having a knife a day for 3 weeks. And I went over there, and I I'm better now than I used. I've given up one of my major vices, which was Diet Pepsis. And so I stopped at the little convenience store right around the corner from the school, and I went in and I thought, well, now I see what the problem is. They had a huge display of these little $5 Chinese big knives, and they were selling them to kids, elementary kids. And, so we got that dealt with.
Yeah.
But you don't think because it's an elementary school, you won't have stabbings, knifings, you won't have guns, you won't have shots fired. And unfortunately, a lot of those don't have SROs on there. You've got to call and wait for somebody to come. What are you going to do in the meantime? If your SRO is there with you, they'll be first through the door. Are you going to stand and wait till somebody comes and responds or not? I mean, there's kids in that room with that gun too.
And Beth brings up a good point as far as protecting kids. I think in elementary schools, we have more custody issues that arise than in middle school or high schools. And I don't know how many times we've received the phone call that the angry parent in the squabble is coming to get the kid that they may or may not have custody of, and you're trying to also figure out what the custody agreement is. And we've held on to kids and made people really, really angry trying to figure it out. But and trying to get the police to show up to help you is sometimes not the easiest thing to handle either. But
they're not quick to jump into domestics either.
No.
And as we saw, unfortunately, at a couple of places, if they know somebody's got a gun and they're using it, they're not quick to go running in either.
Right.
And so the question is, are you? And that's a personal thing. I mean, I can't, I told you what I did and I told you how, of course, I didn't have to tell you how dumb I am, but I was dumb enough, I'd have fought a chainsaw, but I'm not advocating that everybody's got to be dumb or fearless. And it's not fearless. That's just idiocy. But, you got to figure that out yourself. And you've got to make plans accordingly to what you decide that you're going to do. Don't wait till it happens to try to figure this out. Have a plan in place is the idea when this happens.
And Mindy mentioned something about investigating the sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if that girl does have a gun, there's no further investigation because she's going to be gone. And that's going to wrap up that situation quickly. It's not going to matter what the reason that she had it.
And so acts of crime and violence trump all what we call lesser. There is no major, there's no minor, but in some of the scenarios that you'll learn in the second half of the course in Power School, we report the big stuff. And as Dr. Neal said, we'll never get around. That girl will be out of school. We'll never get around. I mean, you might want to do that, but that's going to be secondary. If she's got a gun, that's the headline. And the question is you got 15 minutes. Do you have an SRO? Are they on campus? Can they get there, or do you get there? You can't let that kid leave that room.
No.
So, I mean, that's pretty clear. You better not let that kid leave that room because you're going to lose contain on that weapon. You got to understand that. And so if you can't get somebody there in 15 minutes, you've got to have a plan in place. Who's going to do this? You might have some nitwits like me on your staff. You're going to go get one of them right quick. That's going to charge the machine gun nest. But you better have a plan. And it may turn out that it's you, but you need to have a plan in place for a case like this.
Yes.
All right.
All right, 22, the last one for group one. Who in group one would like to participate?
I guess it's me. Yeah, late practice. All right, so you're the principal of a junior high. There's a 13-year-old girls basketball coach. The mother of a 13-year-old girl comes in and says that the coach is keeping 3 girls, including her daughter, after school for special practice, but her daughter gets special alone time with the coach. And her daughter doesn't get to come home, not even in time for dinner. And her daughter just came home and was crying and said, I wasn't good enough. And the parents were like, oh, it's okay. You'll get better at your sport. And then they realized that her short was torn. And then they started to get concerned. And they contacted the other 2 girls who were staying late. And it wasn't really clear if they are practicing the 2 together or each individually. However, those 2 are both home by dinner time always, and there's no issue. So yeah, alone with students, no. So possible problems, sex assault, inappropriate behavior, alone with a kid. Oh, also the coach was driving the children home alone. So alone in a car as well. Contact DCF and the police and immediately, and then put the coach on investigation until it's done, or on leave until the investigation is over.
But be careful. Do you, as the principal, have the authority to put them on leave?
No.
No. This is definitely big HR issue. So just sometimes we need to remind folks that as a principal, you really do have very little power. And for any big issues like this, you do have to go through your central office and your HR director and make sure that you handle those things appropriately. But there are lots of big red flags with this case, especially being alone. Those are things that you're supposed to go over and address at the beginning of every year about being alone with students and never allowing that to happen. I mean, all kinds of policies were broken just from that one little, without determining what exactly happened. Driving children home personally in your own personal car is usually a very big issue and frowned upon. So this one just has all kinds of no-nos in it. That this coach, and these things unfortunately are happening, and this is not new. It's just because social media gets it out there faster, but this stuff is not new. This stuff has been going on in schools for many, many years. Inappropriate relationships and so forth, it just gets out there a lot quicker nowadays. I mean, there was something on the news just tonight with a track coach. Where are you looking at the high school athletic?
Junior highs and middle schools fall under North Carolina High School Athletic Association. The first problem, I won't go any further into this. The first problem is, and I hate to say it this way, it doesn't matter what he's doing. I mean, you're going to have to dismiss the coach.
Yep.
There are practice limits. It's 90 minutes a day. You can't keep kids after for practice. I don't care what you're doing. You're not allowed to do that. There's a limit on the number of practices, the time of the year. You can't practice on work days. You can't, and there's a limit to the time amount that you can practice, and there's brackets. You have to be done by a certain time, but you can't keep kids after practice for additional practice. That's against the rules of the High School Athletic Association. So he's violated that. That's a dismissible offense from coaching and his job, by the way, regardless of what he's doing with these girls. And so what you do is you report this to HR, and they'll put him on suspension with pay pending an investigation. And then it'll go to suspension without pay. As soon as they find out they can establish that he was running illegal practice, that's suspension without pay. And that will be a dismissal, running illegal practice, by the way. Not just from the coaching job, but from the job, period.
Right.
They're very strict on that. You got to know that. So there's a high school athletic handbook. If you're middle, junior high, or senior high, that all your athletics must comply. And they have to the day, the minute, how much you can do and what you can and can't do. I've got I've got the old school handbook here somewhere. I can pull it up. I can show you that in the second half of the course. But now this is this one. I'm concerned about what he's doing, but more to the point here, we don't even have to know what he's doing with them. That he's doing something is illegal.
Yes. But you're going to have to, I mean, there's going to have to be a very, I mean, these are big, you know, potentially very big
Yeah.
Title IX violations, and you're going to have to go through that person as well.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. That he kept them late is the first issue.
yeah.
And that's going to be a suspension with pay. That he's doing something inappropriate is going to be the second level of this. But this one's got multiple levels. But you're going to need to call HR immediately on this.
Immediately.
That you've got a coach that's keeping kids after practice, you know, violating high school athletic association rules. Now, the second thing that you tell them is, all right, that's the first problem. Second problem is there's an accusation of inappropriate behavior during that time. And so that they're fully aware. But now the suspension with pay, again, the first thing they'll establish is that you're practicing outside of the guidelines for practice. And then we'll find out what's going on. But this one is very clear. And it's not just what he's doing, it's that he's doing is a fireable offense to do this. And so, yes, this one's going to go. Now,
But don't try to handle it on your own with
No.
something this big. You need to have people involved giving you guidance about the exact documentation you're going to need to get.
now, this is a great study. This is a really good one. Let me get back here. Let me talk to you about grown people stuff for a minute now. The reason why stuff like this doesn't get reported by school administrators is they know that this is a clear case. This person's going to get terminated. Even if he wasn't doing anything appropriate, he's going to get terminated because he was running illegal practice. And so what will they, it's not so much that they're trying to cover up the inappropriate Title IX stuff. They know that it doesn't matter what he was doing, he's going to get dismissed. And they know that that's what's going to happen. Now, the worst job I ever had in my life was I had to be the JV girls basketball coach one season. We didn't have anybody else. How hard is it to find a girls JV basketball coach or a middle school basketball coach? And is that a factor you think that principals might not want to tell this? Absolutely. That may be the hardest sport to find somebody to do that. I can tell you, I was a baseball and football coach, and I had to do JV girls basketball one season because nobody else would do it. And at about 15 minutes into my tenure as their coach, I realized why nobody wanted to deal with it. It was just absolutely awful. It was as bad as you could imagine, only worse. And so that's real people talk. I mean, you know that when this goes to HR, this is a fireable offense that you're going to have a new coach, regardless of what he was actually doing with the girls. That he was keeping them after practice, he's a goner. You're going to have to find a new girls basketball coach. That's just plain as the nose on your face. The law
And it
is
might
very
be
clear. And it may be you. And it may be you. I had to sign one of my APs to girls softball in the junior high. That, you know, it may be you. I sure did. Kara had to take the girls softball team at the junior high. That's exactly right. It may be one of your administrative team, but you have to assign. It may be you. And that's why a lot of this stuff gets covered up. It's not that we're trying to cover up the sexual stuff. We know we're going to lose the coach over the illegal practices. That's a clear dismissal offense. That one's clear. There's no wiggle room on that. Regardless of what he was or wasn't doing, he's a goner, and we're going to have to replace him. And so it's easier to cover it up. It's fine, and not address the actual real issue, which is the illegal practice, is the first problem. So we never get to the Title IX stuff because we don't want to deal with the illegal practice stuff. And then we get into That's another level of problems. We may have to suspend the season. We may have to forfeit games. Not only we lose coach, and then you're talking about mad parents. You got some kid on the team, and their parent thinks she's the next Caitlin Clark going to play in the WNBA, and they have to forfeit their games or lose their season over their coach's behavior. Oh my God! Parents are not rational when it comes to that kind of stuff, and that's the road you're headed down on this one. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the road you're headed down. Your coach is going to get dismissed. And you got to find somebody, and the team may be penalized over the coach's behavior too. And boy, parents will not be happy. They will not be happy.
No. All right, group 2. Y'all have 23. Who's gonna give us a little summary?
I'll do it.
All right, Andrew.
All right. So
Oh,
case 23 is about a principal on who to hire for a 5th grade opening. And they have 3 candidates who they've completed interviews with. And all 3 of the candidates have similar qualifications. And they've also had interviews with their future colleagues, and the principal had the colleagues rate each one on who they wanted or who they felt they would work best with. And there's a clear choice as far as the one that they think would work best, but the principal is having hesitations about it because the person that seems best fit is a single mom who has fundamentalist ideals and sends her own children to a fundamentalist Christian private school. And so he's battling with that, but there's really no gray area here. You can't not hire somebody because of their religious affiliation. That's discrimination, which is illegal. So yeah, there's a tradition that the teachers send their kids to the school that they work at, but the principal can't do anything about it. You should offer the position to the most qualified and the one that is going to you feel is going to be the best in that position.
oh, sorry, I had muted myself. You have a team that's helping make this decision. I am curious how they know that. So she expressed her unwillingness. I mean, you can't tell folks that they have to transfer their children to the school where they teach. They can send their kids where they want to. I never took my kids where I worked because I knew that it would not work out well for either of us. So, but it's that's a personal family decision. That should not be what impacts them as a candidate for the job.
All right. Devil's advocate here. Understanding personnel law. I did this weekend before last and last weekend. I teach the personnel class because it's basically school law class. And so I teach it at the doctoral level. You have to understand due process. You have to understand EEOC requirements and due process, both substantive and procedural. Substance is what you're supposed to do. Procedural is, did you do it? Now, the law doesn't say that you have to hire her. Just like the short teacher or pregnant, you don't have to hire them. The law doesn't say that we have to hire them. It says that it can't be used in the hiring. We're not supposed to not hire them because of that. But it doesn't say we have to hire them. And so Do we have to give a reason as to why we don't hire somebody? Now, if we give a reason, then we get ourselves in trouble. But the question always boils down to, do we factor those things in to the hiring decision? Legally, you're not supposed to, but again, legally, you don't have to hire her either if you have other qualified candidates. Now, if she's the only qualified candidate, then yes, you would have to hire her. But if you have alternative qualified candidates, you can offer to. Do you have to go with the one that scores the highest? No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
You do not, as long as they meet the minimum standard. That's what the law is.
I have something to add to that. This is not with the law part, but if your school has always picked the highest rated candidate, would you then have to do that if that's kind of like the president at your school, that you always have picked the highest
All
rated?
right.
My school doesn't do that. We don't have a rating scale. I mean, we do the committee interviews and then we have conversation, but if you're at a school and it sounds like maybe that's how they typically operate, does that change anything?
Nope. As
Okay.
long as they meet the minimum standard. For example, at Gardner Webb, we do virtual interviews, and then we have 3 people come to campus, and the committee ranks them 1, 2, and 3 and sends them up the hill. Then each of the 3 goes up the hill. Well, they actually spend an entire day on campus. They have 9 separate meetings. During that time, they go to the president, the provost, and HR in one place. They go to Christian Life. They go to the hiring committee. They go to they do a mock lesson. There's all those different things. But in the end, the president can pick any of the 3 candidates or none of the 3 candidates. He's not bound by law to go by whoever had the highest point total. That's not part of it. As long as they met the minimum, he can pick any of the 3. That's what we're talking about here. You don't have to. The law just says that you can't exclude somebody, but that doesn't mean you have to pick them. And if you run a point system, as long as they get the minimum number of points, you can pick from any of the ones that are qualified that have the minimum number of points. You don't always have to go with the one that has the highest point total. That's not what the law says.
And I don't like the point system myself. I like the ranking, like these are my top 3 or my top 2. And then, the principal chooses from there. But remember, at least in North Carolina, the principal doesn't hire anybody.
Yeah.
You recommend them to the
Right.
board, and the board has to approve.
Right.
So, and who you recommend doesn't mean that they are going to get the stamp of approval either.
That is
They
correct.
don't have to give reason.
Nope. And so when we bring the 3 in, and we've done this a number of times, if one of them doesn't meet the minimum qualifications or the minimum point, they don't go up the hill. Might not be, but 2 go up the hill. And then again, that's like going to the school board. You just recommend here are the top 3. These all 3 meet the minimum qualifications for hiring, and then the pick is made. Again, there's no legal requirement that the top one, even if that's your standard practice, as Heather says, and that's a great question, Heather. Even if that's your standard, the law doesn't say that you have to pick the highest score. You don't have to pick this lady, is what I'm saying. There's no legal reason why you have to pick this lady. Now, if you think she's the best one, and you're willing to suffer any of that blowback, then that's fine. But understanding you are not required to pick her. Now, you can't say I didn't pick you because where your kids go to school, your religious beliefs. Now, if you do that, that's actionable. That they can sue you over that. But you don't have to give a reason why you don't hire somebody. That's not part of it. You don't have to say I didn't hire you because. And what a lot of candidates, can you tell me what I could have done? What they're trying to tease out of you is a reason why they didn't get the job. You never give a reason why. We just went with a different candidate.
Yes, oftentimes they want some feedback. Do not
do not
give that feedback back,
Mm-mm.
because that can put you in a very vulnerable situation where they can try to catch you on some unfair hiring process that you followed.
Yep. And one of the things that is happening a lot lately that I don't know that people really understand, they'll send a follow-up email to the committee, you know, the interview committee. Thank you for the time and all that. Now, I never respond to those. Why don't I respond to those? Because everybody doesn't send one. Everybody doesn't send a thank you note. And I don't, and if I respond back to one, yes, I enjoyed meeting you, or it was wonderful, or whatever, you know, and I know they're lying when they say, we were so excited to meet you. We really enjoyed it. I know that's a lie. And so, because I wear you out in interviews, everybody knows that. You just, hopefully you're just bleeding on the inside, not getting on your clothes when I get done with you in an interview. And so I know they're lying when they say they enjoyed meeting me. That's so I don't respond to those because everybody doesn't send one of those. That might be seen as showing favoritism of somebody lodge a complaint. Well, he liked her. He said so in an email. You know, that the system was flawed. No, you don't respond back to those thank you emails. You don't tell them what they could have done better. It's not your job to prepare them for interviews. And you don't give a reason as to why you didn't hire them. You just went, you hired another person. That's the way that works. You're not required to hire the highest scorer, but be careful. You don't give any reasons for any decisions that you made. You're not required to do that.
And make sure you've asked the same questions and followed the
In
same
the same
procedure. And if you give them, you know, sometimes we give them data or cases or a lesson plan to develop, that you do that same thing for every candidate. And that will keep you in the clear.
Yep.
And then, yes, you recommend who you want. But if the team, rather than saying this person has so many points, if you say these are my top 2 and give the reasons for that, then there's a little more flexibility and it doesn't bind you into thinking that you only can go with the one that everybody scored the highest on.
Yep.
But your HR might require you to do that. So
yeah,
it just depends. Just follow what they set out. But sometimes you also have to go with your gut. The best person on paper isn't always the best person for your building.
Yeah. There are 9 separate factors of due process in terms of substantive due process to hire somebody. Every district they do the same 9 things, but they do them differently, whose responsibility they are to do those separate things. Just make sure you do the same for everybody. And that's the procedural part of due process. If you have questions, then you ask the same questions of everybody in the same order. I was in one recently. I may have already told the story. Just bear with me. And it was clear that the candidate had been given an advance copy of the question. She was answering them before you could even get the question out. And so one of the persons was doing the interview kind of got angry and went off script. And of course, the person who was answering the questions immediately looked over, you know, to the right at the person I'm quite sure had given her the list of questions to prep her, because that was her top pick. And so now what we had to do is the questions that he asked, we had to write those down and make sure that we included them up with everybody else, that they got asked the same questions. I mean, you know, you don't like that to happen, but there's ways around those kinds of things. The problem is if you'd already interviewed people and you hadn't asked them those questions, you don't want to go off script. Yeah. I understood why he went off script, because he was angry that somebody had prepped that candidate, but they weren't supposed to do that either. Now that's part of it too. And that's part of the problem with that scoring deal. Is if you got somebody on the faculty that wants their friend or wants this particular person, what stops them from sharing the questions so that they can prep before they come into the interview? And so they look great at the interview, but that's part of that you got to go with your gut kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Why were they so good in the interview? This lady was, you know, she wasn't very good at disguising the fact that she knew exactly what was going to be asked. I mean, she was rattling them off before you could even get the question out. And so, and that's part of the problem with using committees is they have favorites. And if they've never been an administrator and don't know the law, they send the questions to their friend, get them, and might even sit and work with them on how to answer the questions. And so that scoring deal, that can lead to problems. But no, you don't have to hire the highest score. You're not required to. Now let's think about this one. I'm gonna go off script here for a minute. Would you hire this lady? Regardless of the points, would you hire this lady? Andrew said he would.
When it comes to how that person's going to impact the school community, maybe not. I mean, part of what you're looking for is somebody who contributes in a positive and meaningful way to the community and builds up the school, and has pride in it. So I could see not.
I could too.
I could too.
Do you love conflict? There's, my wife of soon to be 40 years loves soap operas. I think they are a sign of the apocalypse. I think they're probably the worst thing in the world is soap operas. She loves them. Always has. It's just because it's just drama all the time. But again, she's a curriculum person. She never was a school administrator. If you're a school administrator, after a while, you begin to realize that you don't really like drama. Drama is not good for schools. Crisis, drama, a lot of, fighting before breakfast, you lost that whole day because everybody's just, it's chaos. What you want in school is bell ring, go to class, bell ring, go to next class. What Ron Thompson used to call having school. You want it calm, you want it relaxed. You don't want any controversy. You want the focus on teaching and learning every day, and anything that disrupts that in any way, soap operas just go from one crisis to the next. Those people just live in crisis all the time, and I guess that might be fun to watch. But if you're a school person like me, it's like torture when one of those things is playing in the house and I'm in the house with it. It's just too much drama. You realize what that does to the culture and climate of your building. You do not want drama in a school building. There's enough that comes on to your door every day. That's external. You don't need internal drama. That's just my perspective. Again, that's just me. But I'm not looking for people who bring drama. I don't care how good. I think the negative outweighs the positives on the drama. There's too much of that. You want things calm. You want a routine. Kids find and teachers find comfort in that. And when they're comfortable, good things tend to happen more than when everybody's on edge all the time. And when we're just going from one chaotic situation or one drama to the next. That's why I'm not a fan of that rolling or bouncing or whatever you call it in PBIS, where you take a disruptive kid and put him in somebody else's room, and now he's disrupted two rooms rather than one. No, no, we that's the antithesis of teaching and learning. So for me, I wouldn't hire this lady because it's going to be, the drama that she potentially will bring with this. I don't need it. I don't want it. I got to be focused on other things other than drama all the time. And if I'm going to be an effective school leader, maybe that's just personal, but I abhor drama in schools.
Yeah. No drama. Save the drama for your mama.
Well, one of the best things that you can do is look at the reception area of your school. Is it chaotic? Are we bringing kids in the front office for discipline? Are they delivering packages? Is the school nurse there? You want the first thing that people see and the representative of your school to be like, as calm as a doctor's waiting room. I mean, you want it to be just calm and professional, because that pervades the entire organization. If I could tell you one secret to that is make sure that when people come into your building, that the first thing they see is not something that looks like a 5-alarm fire that's happening. You want the place to be, you want to set the tone at the very first point of contact in your building, that this is a place of business, that this is a professional organization. There aren't screaming and crying kids and adults and other things in the front office. It's calm, and we're handling business. That sets the tone for your entire business, that we're for your entire school, that we're about our business every day of teaching and learning, that we're focused on that, and we're not going to be distracted by other things. I think that's very important.
It is. It's critical. All right, let's talk about fights. More fights.
Okay,
I can do it.
Okay, go ahead, Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Hello. In one of the schools, there is a lot of fighting constantly. There always seems to be racial and ethnic overtones. There's a new principal, and the student population is diverse, and it asks what are the first steps. First with students, then with the problems, and the problem in the school seems to be confronted with in regard to the student population. And so I think the problem is the school environment, and it's going to take a lot of steps to fix this particular situation. I think that students are going to need to be engaged and have open dialogue. There's going to have to be conflict resolution, encourage student leadership, review and revise policy, restorative practices. And then I think you're going to have to look at your curriculums and make sure that they are culturally diverse, and also to celebrate diversity and strengthen community partnerships.
Because good ideas, Natalie. And, this is a larger issue than just the school, a community issue, but is definitely a big culture and climate issue that's going to need to be addressed. And punishing kid after kid for doing these things is, yes, it has to occur, but that's not the only solution. How many of y'all have dealt with some of these in your schools? Where it is a lot of racial division. This is what a magnet school, where they're busing kids in, which is what CMS tried to do to solve some of their problems with segregation and trying to integrate folks. And it comes with a lot of problems, but they're not problems that can't be solved if you've created the right environment. Like Natalie said, it is an environmental, it's a culture, it's a climate issue. And it's, how are we addressing this? And what are our teachers, what are they fueling it with also?
Parents, having lived this life in CMS, first thing you got to do is write your handbook so that everybody understands if you fight, everybody goes home, everybody gets suspended. There is no, but he caught, no. If you engage in a fight, now parents won't like that, and they think there are no extenuating circumstances for fighting. You have to get your community to understand that there are no extenuating circumstances, that if you fight, you go home. They won't like that, but that's how it has to start. And then you work on restorative justice and conflict resolution and all those things. But none of that will work until you establish if you fight, you go home. Now that won't be popular. It'll make parents mad, but that is the only way, because a lot of this is fueled by parents. And once they understand that, They don't have to like it. They don't have to agree with it. But once they understand it, you can start to then find some alternatives to these problems. But until it's a hard and fast rule, you fight, you go home, you will never make a dent in this problem.
And you have to set that as the expectation with your staff too.
Yes.
And let them know that, and you say it on the announcements, you have things that are represented in lessons in the hallways that this is not going to be tolerated.
Exactly.
And maybe some community events, working in a low performing district for the last 3 years, it was nothing but racial division. And a couple of very successful principals have been successful in moving their schools by doing everything they can to make parents welcome into their schools, making them feel a part of the school, and going above and beyond to reach the parents just as much as the children.
Absolutely. You got to start with the parents. I mean, all the things that Natalie said, but it has to start with the parents.
Yes.
It has to start with them. If you don't get them on board, whether they want to be on board or not, they have to be on board. They have to understand there's no excuse for my kid fighting, that this is a no hitting zone. That that's not going to be allowed. There's never going to be an excuse where it's going to be okay.
No tolerance for it.
Yeah, tolerate no violence in the building. And once you establish that, then you can start working events, diversity, inclusion, conflict management, all the things that we know to do. But it won't work if you don't start with the parents first. That's the trick to this case study, is you got to start with the parents first.
Yep. All right, and our last one. So this is actually pretty familiar with, similar to something that has gone on in the little town of Belmont, close to here. Who wants to summarize this one? It's a real life similar situation that's occurring.
I don't mind doing that one.
You, Alicia, come on.
All right. So let me pull up the notes. You're a principal at a high school, and the population is middle to upper middle class. The students, well, the family members are middle to upper middle class parents and students. The students are congregating at the local malls, and they're having rowdy behavior along with drinking and some suspected shoplifting. Not all the students go to your school, but many of them are wearing Letterman jackets and identifying clothing of your school. And so the community wants you to do something about it, about how will you respond to this. They've been very supportive of your school, and so they kind of want you to be supportive of them in the community. And so the biggest problem, I guess I had a question about what time is this occurring? Is this occurring during school hours, or is this an after school?
It's probably right after dismissal.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if it's during the school time, that's a different type of issue. But if it's right after school, I think the biggest thing is to contact parents and guardians of any of the students that you're suspecting, and trying to bridge a gap between that neighborhood and figuring out what is actually going on, and maybe limiting or revisiting, I think that's what I said, revisiting your dismissal plan and how you will address that issue.
Yes. So I don't know if many of you remember at the very beginning of the school year, if you were on any local news, South Point High School in Belmont is a very large high school, and their middle school is right down from there. And they're releasing school at similar times. It's causing a big traffic issue. But there's also right across the street from South Point High School a large shopping center with Chick-fil-A and lots of other businesses. I mean, it is directly across the street. And so the business owners were saying, I think Chick-fil-A put up a sign that like nobody under the age of 18 is allowed in the building, like between 2 and 5 o'clock without a parent. You know, and there's been trash, some minor vandalism, some shoplifting, and I think there's been an issue with, is this the school board's problem? And are they going to address it, or is it out of their hands? Some of the parents and community members want them to kind of stagger and change the start and ending time of school between the two schools, so there's not so many kids coming over there at one time. But you know, this is after school has started. You can't just change the stop and start of school. But it's difficult because you don't really have the authority to police them off of school grounds after school. But can you be a partner in trying to help by maybe talking to kids or having some announcements or discussions about it? But you can't police them at the mall, and you can't go after them because somebody said that kid goes to your school. So I thought this was interesting because this is happening in a local area close by, which I can't believe they built a shopping center right across from South Point High School with the Chick-fil-A and all of those. And I mean, within feet of that high school.
Well, in in early mid-90s, we ran a program in Charlotte, Mecklenburg to address just this. It's called Tolerate No Truancy. We passed out all these cards in the community, and we would come and if kids, you know, mostly it was at Eastland Mall. If they went to the mall,
that is a long time ago, Dale.
Yeah, and we had to go out and respond to this, but it was only during the school day. You heard me say earlier, I've been shot at. I was on a Tolerate No Truancy call when I got shot at. Me and Tim Newman, and Tim's as big as me. The only good thing was I was driving an SUV. It was high enough off the ground we could crawl up underneath it. When the shots were fired, you do not want to go out and try to police this. I have been shot at doing this very thing during the day. I'm not making that up. I can tell you I was on Pegram Street. I can tell you exactly where I was when I got shot at. Like this time, I've been shot at other times, but this time we were trying to do Tolerate No Truancy. We did it for a year and we stopped because it was putting everybody in harm's way. You don't have any authority. You're not a policeman. You can't be out there even during school. You can't be out there. But especially after school, you know, this is one of those things that your school board is going to have to address. This is not a local school problem. This is not the thing to understand about this is not a local school problem. This is not something within your jurisdiction that you can handle. You're not you don't do policing. That's not your job. You have no authority out there. You can make announcements, you can do whatever, but I wouldn't do anything until I was given a directive from the school board.
Yeah.
The school board needs to handle this one.
And probably also in cooperation with the local police department.
Yes.
And everybody trying to come together to try to help problem solve.
You've got to have your police force at the table because they're in the enforcement end, not you.
Right.
They're the ones that are putting themselves in harm's way with these groups of kids. But no, this is not a school problem. This is a law enforcement problem, and this is a school board problem. If they want to get involved, that would be up to them. And you would follow their directive. But this is a law enforcement problem.
But I think you need to be careful not to dismiss the person and say, well, that's not my problem. But say, let me talk to people. You know, you have to go about dealing with community people in a smart way.
Yeah.
You do not want to burn relationships with folks that support your school. You may not have any control, but you at least give them the courtesy that you'll talk to some people and maybe help get some other people involved. Because in this situation, it could be kind of easy to say, well, look, I'm sorry, but once they leave my school grounds, I have no say. But if you want to try to help maintain and keep those community relationships positive, you will at least tell them that you can look into it, that you're going to contact the superintendent to help brainstorm something. Just don't tell them no.
Yeah.
Don't tell them you're going to fix it, but tell them that you're going to get some more information and guidance.
Yeah. Now, the rest of the story on the tolerate no truancy about trying to help businesses in the Albemarle Road, Central Avenue corridor, Eastland Mall corridor was an event that happened at Albemarle Road Junior High, which is just, the other side of the mall. They had a principal and he lost his grip. He just lost his grip. He went crazy. He rang the bell one day at 1:30. They'd been fighting all day long at school, and he was just, they fought all 3 lunch shifts. And it was just awful. And he just lost his grip, and he rang the bell at 1:30. Well, the problem, if you know anything about CMS, is we triple the buses in CMS. That means we pick up elementary, high school kids first, then middle, then elementary, and then we do the reverse in the afternoon. We do the same thing. And so at 1:30 at a junior high, guess how many buses were on the bus lot at 1:30? That'd be none. That'd be 0. So they went rolling down the front drive of the school, 1,400 kids down Royal Drive onto Albemarle Road. They turned cars over. They knocked all the windows. They set buildings on fire. It was a riot. And the school board's overreaction was to tolerate no truancy, and that was even a bigger disaster. So these are law enforcement issues. You've got to be politically sensitive. That micro political standard 7. You can't tell them not my problem. Not my circus, not my monkeys. You can't do that. But understanding when the bell rings, they're just community members. They're no longer yours. And so this is yes, I'll listen. I'll talk to the folks at the central office, and they'll talk to the people at the school board. But I'm not in law enforcement. But you don't promise something you can't deliver either. That you will be a part of the people who sit down and talk about this. But now when the bell rings, they're just citizens again. You have no authority over them. Don't be out there. People will shoot at you. I know this personally. They will shoot at you. And so this is not something that you don't need to be Superman or Batman. You can't right all wrongs. You need to know the limit of your authority. And when the bell rings and these kids are off your property, you don't have any. You can help try to find some solutions, but understand the limits of your legal authority. And don't get yourself in situations where people are taking pot shots at you, especially if you're as big as me. It's hard to miss me.
All right, well, that's all, Dale, for tonight.
Oh gosh, we just blazing right through these.
Yeah. We don't meet again until October 1, so you get a week off from us.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at the calendar here. We'll come back together October 1st, and then we will be together in Charlotte again on the 12th. And so I will spring for lunch on October the 12th. We'll get Jason's Deli. So if you get an I'll wait till our next meeting, and that night I will send out the Qualtrics link to order your lunch, and we'll do lunch on the middle weekend. I'll spring for lunch, and we'll have a few laughs if nothing else. All right, you got anything else for the good of the group, Dr. Neal?
I do not. Do y'all have anything? Any questions? Any concerns about any of your assignments? Nope.
So the Maxwell presentations are coming up on the 12th. Did we go through and assign chapters yet?
I thought I already did that. If I didn't, let me look right quick. I thought I'd already done that. Share the screen. Let me see here. And so,
October 12th.
okay.
And then I haven't come across it, but
I know I made it out. Maybe I just didn't upload it. I'll upload it tonight. I'll find it. I know I've made it. I probably just forgot to put it in here. Let me see. Closed the wrong one. Let me see if it's here. If it's there, it is. No, it's not on here. I know. I can tell by looking at it. It's not here. It should be right here, but it's not. I'll put it up tonight. I got it. I will put it up tonight. I know I've already made it, and so I'll find it in my files and I will post it under here for the 12th. I will put it
Okay.
right here. It will go right there. I'll go ahead. I'll create one and put it right there. The chapter assignments. I'll do that. It'll be up within the hour. I'll find it. I've got a couple more things to pull, and I'll put that up in just a few minutes as soon as I answer these emails. All
Thank
right,
you,
that's a
Dale.
good question.
All right. Y'all
All
have
right.
a good couple
All right,
weeks.
everybody. We'll see you October 1st.
Yes. Thank you, Dale.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.